So it is one of the important topics for your exam. Here, in order to remember the classification of fungi, you need to remember your palm and your fingers. Here you can see in this picture, P stands for Phycomycetes, A, B, C, D, and this is Z. A stands for Ascomycetes, B stands for Basidiomycetes, C stands for Basidiomycota, D stands for Deuteromycetes, and finally Z stands for Zygomycetes. So if you classify fungi can be classified based on the morphological characteristics and taxonomical features. The morphological characteristics are yeast-like fungi, molds, dimorphic fungi. Whereas taxonomical features are fungi can be classified based on sexual reproduction, based on septate, and based on the type of spores they produce for reproduction. Moving on to the morphological characteristics, yeast. As everybody know, yeast are oval-shaped structure with bulging at one end of the cell. You can see the morphological characteristics of yeast, which try to multiply with the bulging at one end, and this bulging try to expand or multiply along with the attachment of mother cell. At some point of time it gets detached. So yeast-like fungi grow partially as yeast and partially as elongated cells, which resembles hyphae, and these hyphae are termed as pseudomycelium. Here you can see yeast-like structure. At the same time, same organism grows in the form of mycelia, and you can see at the tip of the mycelia you can see the bulging of the cell. Example for this, Candida albicans. Why it happens? Let us see. And also there is dimorphic fungi, and the dimorphic fungi based on the temperature behaves differently. For example, Histoplasma capsulatum at 37 degrees Celsius grows in the form of yeast, and at 25 degrees Celsius produces pseudomycelium. When this Histoplasma capsulatum is grown on cyclohexenamide media, then and incubate at 37 degrees Celsius, it produces yeast-like morphological characteristics, and at 25 degrees Celsius it produces pseudomycelium. Similarly, Blastomyces dermatitis produces yeast-like characteristic at 37 degrees Celsius, and at 25 degrees Celsius they produces pseudomycelium. Similar in the case of Coccidioides, where at 37 degrees Celsius yeast-like characteristics and 25 degrees Celsius produces pseudomycelium. Coming back to the molds. The molds you can see are growing on fruits, growing on bread with a thick green color mat or grey color mat onto the food substance, which causes food spoilage. Also, further fungi can be grouped based on the identification of sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction not identified. Moving on to sexual reproduction identified, which is further classified as primitive fungi and advanced fungi. In primitive fungi, you can see Phycomycetes, Zygomycetes. In advanced fungi, you can see Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes. And sexual reproduction not identified, you can see Deuteromycetes and here you can find the example of each classes. So moving on to phycomycetes. In order to remember phycomycetes, you need to remember this sentence: pack your bags, we will go for zoo and get relaxed and sleep. So you can see the members of phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats and on decaying woods in moist and damp places. They are also recognized as obligate parasites on plants. The mycelium is aseptate and cenocytic. Cenocytic means there is no septate in the mycelium. Asexual reproduction takes place by zoospores, and these spores are endogenously produced, which are produced inside a sac-like structure called as sporangium. A zygospore is formed by fusion of two gametes, especially in the sexual reproduction mode. Some of the common examples are mucor, rhizopus, etc. So how to remember this? Pack your bags, we will go for zoo and get relaxed and sleep. P, parasite, it is a parasitic fungi. B, grows on bread, rhizopus, and it is aquatic fungi, W for water, and it is recognized as food spoilage, F. It reproduces via zoospore, Z. Get relaxed, example rhizopus, and here S stands for sporangium. Okay. The members of phycomycetes are also reported to cause plant diseases, and some members causes food spoilage. Some species are reported to have its usage in the industries for fermentation purpose, and many species of are soil inhabitants and they cause root troubles, and also as the water level decreases, the number of colonies also decreases. So these are some of the common characteristics of phycomycetes which you can remember easily if you remember this sentence. So moving on to the reproduction cycle. Somatic body produces gametes, and these gametes gets union or gametic union is formed, and this gametic union results in plasmogamy, and this plasmogamy undergoes karyogamy, and the karyogamy forms a zygote. This zygote undergoes meiosis, and after the meiosis spores are formed, and these spores germinate again back to the somatic body. This entire cycle is sexual mode of reproduction in phycomycetes. This part of sexual reproduction cycle is called as haplophase, and this part is called as diplophase. Whereas asexual reproduction, here the somatic body produces spores inside the sporangium, and which are asexual spores. The somatic body develops sporangium, and this sporangium contains asexual spores, and this spores produces or germinates when it comes in contact with the substrate or suitable environmental condition. So this complete figure illustrates both sexual as well as asexual reproduction of phycomycetes. Moving on to the Basidiomycetes. It's also called as club fungi. You need to remember bar wherein you go with your friends. Bar means club fungi, and here the members of Basidiomycetes causes rust and smut disease, and some of the members are capable of causing are soil inhabitants and are capable of causing a root infection as well. As well. So the mycelia is branched and septate. Asexual spores are generally not found in basidiomycetes, but vegetative reproduction takes place by fermentation. The sex organs are absent, but plasmogamy is brought about by fusion of two vegetative or somatic cells of different strains or genotypes. Example for this, agaricus, that is mushroom, pustilogo causes smut disease, Vaccinia causes rust disease. So how to remember this? You bar and you go to bar along with your friends. When you remember bar, you get an imagination of a club. So it is called as club fungi. And bar, R stands for rust, and along with friends. So F stands for fragmentation. So you need to remember this. It will be very easy. Moving on to the sexual mode of reproduction here. Asexual reproduction is absent here. So sexual mode of reproduction, you can see Basidiocarp undergoes karyogamy and to form a zygote, and this zygote undergoes meiosis, which results in 4 haploid nuclei, and this 4 basidium with 4 haploid nuclei undergoes cell division and gets separated, and these spores, basidiospores, get dispersed and start germinating, and different strains, when they produce mycelium, these different strains come in contact and undergoes plasmogamy. The plasmogamy further undergoes mitosis, and again Basidiocarp is formed. This is the complete sexual reproduction of Basidiomycetes. Moving on to Ascomycetes. They are saprophytic, decomposer, parasitic, coprophilous, which means they grow on dungs. The mycelia is branched and septate. The asexual spore are conidia, produced exogenously on the special mycelium called conidiophore. The conidia on germination produces mycelium again. The sexual spores here are called as ascospores, which are produced endogenously. Here you can see the asexual spores are produced exogenously, whereas the counterpart sexual spores are produced endogenously in sac-like structure called as asci. These asci are arranged in different types of fruiting bodies called as ascocarp. The example for Ascomycetes: Aspergillus, Clavicips, Neurospora. The Neurospora is used as a model organism in biochemical and genetic research. So, how to remember this? State declared UC results, celebrations all around. Always clearly note down the marks. S stands for saprophytic, D stands for decomposer, P stands for parasitic. Celebration all around, which means asexual mode of reproduction is via conidiospore. Sexual mode of reproduction, A stands for ascospores. Examples for this: Aspergillus, Clavicips, Neurospora. So moving on to the life cycle of Ascomycetes. The zygote undergoes meiosis to form 4 haploid nuclei, which further undergoes mitosis to form 8 haploid ascospores, and these ascospores get dispersed and they try to germinate. When two different mycelium comes in contact with each other, they undergo plasmogamy and mitosis to form ascocarp. Within this, you can find ascospores. Again, this ascocarp undergoes karyogamy to form zygote. So this is sexual mode of sexual reproduction. And when we see the asexual mode of reproduction, the mycelia undergoes mitosis to form spores, and these spores germinates again to form mycelium. So deuteromycetes. The deuteromycetes are considered as temporary class. They are also called as imperfect fungi because asexual or vegetative phase of these fungi are known, whereas sexual phase is not found. And in case the sexual mode of reproduction is found, then these fungi are grouped into the other classes such as Ascomycetes or Basidiomycetes. Here you can see. If the sexual stage of members of deuteromycetes are discovered, they are often moved to Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. So the mycelium is separate and branched. Some members are saprophytes or parasites, while large number of them are decomposers. And the members of deuteromycetes help in recycling of nutrients. Example: Alternaria, Trichoderma, Colatotrichum. Moving on to zygomycetes. Zygomycetes are saprophytes and some are parasites. My dear students, you might have noticed that almost all the classes, one thing is common: the majority of them are parasite and saprophytes. So keep this sentence as common in all the classes of fungi. The Zygomycota usually reproduces asexually by producing sporangiosperm, and sexually reproduction takes place when the conditions are unfavorable. To produce sexually, two opposite strains fuse or conjugate and share the genetic content to create zygospore. The resulting diploid zygospores remain dormant and protected by thick coat until environmental conditions are improved or favorable. When they are favorable, this zygospore undergoes meiosis to produce haploid spores, which will eventually grow into new organism. How to remember this? So in Zomato, special discount for ordering pizza and snacks, which means they are special. S stands for saprophytes and pizza stands for parasite. P stands for parasite. Special discount, sporangiosperm. Asexual reproduction takes place via sporangiosperm, and sexual reproduction takes place via zygospores. And this zygospore remain dormant for a period of time until favorable conditions are obtained. Here you can see the complete life cycle of zygomycete. The spores germinate, different mycelium undergo plasmogamy, and after the plasmogamy there is a formation of zygosporangium, and later karyogamy takes place to produce the nuclei, the fused nuclei, and there is a formation of zygote. The zygote undergoes meiosis, and here you can see sporangium. This sporangium contains spores, and when the spores are released from the sporangium, they try to germinate. So this is the sexual reproduction cycle. Whereas moving on to the asexual mode, the spores undergo mitosis to form mycelium and germinates. Mycota. It is a class of fungi and most of them are saprophytes. The cell wall is composed of chitin. It contains a special characteristics having flagellum, a whip slash flagellum for movement. Mycota reproduce with zoospores that are capable of active movement in aqueous phases, which means they are mostly present in water, aquatic fungi. For most members of Mycota, asexual reproduction takes place through release of zoospores derived through mitosis. Some members undergo sexual reproduction through fusion of isogametes. The mycelium is aseptate and are cenocytic. These single-celled organisms have branching hyphae with rhizoids. Thank you for your patience. With this, we have concluded this session and look forward for the next class. Till then, have a nice academic life. Good luck.